right, we're going to take you back now to South Carolina for the jealous husband murder trial.
Defendant William Bud Ackerman is accused of fatally striking Kenneth McClendon with his truck in the early morning hours of May 7, 2023.
Prosecutors say Ackerman was angry with McClendon, who had recently started dating his estranged wife, Meredith Haney.
Let's get you back into court now. This is the defense's first witness. You haven't missed any of the testimony. They have called an accident reconstructionist. Let's go in.
Expert in the area of accident reconstruction. May proceed.
David, at some point were you contacted by my office to look at this particular case and try to do a reconstruction of the accident?
Yes, I started working on this case in May of 2023, where I received initial discovery from the defense and then came to South Carolina, Greenwood, to actually do the field work in July of 2023.
So you actually traveled here in July to do on-the-site investigation, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And of course, you were here last week prior to when the hurricane hit, correct?
Yes, I was.
All right, you came back this week.
I was here for the whole week.
So you've gotten some good miles on your airline.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell the jury what tasks you performed in connection with this case?
Well, I'm very methodical when it comes to the work assignments that are delegated to me. And when I started in July, I think it was July 26, 2023, I was already equipped with a lot of the discovery materials.
Can you explain what discovery is? I mean,
that's where I started, actually, because I always depend on what first responders do to document scenes, to identify physical evidence. So they play a very important role in being able to complete an efficient accident reconstruction. So after I became knowledgeable about most of the discovery, I came to Greenwood in July 26th, and the first part of my inquiry involved documenting the collision site where this crash occurred. And for purposes of explaining that and helping you understand what a forensic scanner does, is it's probably one of the most advanced technologies on the market, and it in essence measures a scene, and in this particular scene I had about 117 million measurement points to lay out the geometry of the collision site where this crash occurred, and to reproduce a lot of the physical evidence that was identified by the first responders. And then the second part of the inquiries involved examining the vehicles in detail. And again, the forensic scanner measures longitudinal, latitude, and elevation values of the collision site and the vehicles involved. So when the projects are completed, I have very accurate visual statements of the geometry of the collision site and the surrounding terrain. And I also have very accurate measurements and visual statements involving both the Ford truck and the BMW that was involved in this accident.
So is it what you're referring to is that you feed information into a computer program? Is that, can you elaborate a little bit more about what that you were referring to?
Well, the forensic scanner is a separate piece of an equipment. It's about a $50,000 instrument that collects data, and when the data is collected, it's extracted, and we use different kinds of diagramming software to put together two-dimensional visual statements or three-dimensional visual statements. So the computers do some of the work, but the additional important work that is done is the reproducing the physical evidence that was identified by first responders, and then putting it together in diagram form so that other people can see your work and understand how accurate it is.
And do you have a scanner that you're referring to?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And that you use that in your consulting work?
Yes, I do. It's called a Faro Scanner X330.
And you've been trained on that?
I have been trained on it, and I've been using it since 2016.
Okay. Now, you said did you visit the site?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was that of some assistance to you in coming to the conclusions you ultimately came to?
Absolutely. Every bit of information that was documented by use of the forensic scanner and photography was used to make determinations on vehicle positions, the pedestrian's position, based on my understanding and interpretation of the physical evidence that the police had and that I also collected.
Did you do any research concerning the vehicles that were involved in this particular case?
Well, we always do research on the makes and models of the vehicles that are involved, and I did have an opportunity to examine both vehicles. And it was a no-touch examination because the vehicles were still had a police hold, and so arrangements were made with council and with the police department to come to the impound lot and forensically scan, photograph, and measure the two vehicles involved.
So it was limited to an extent, but you actually had they did not, or they cooperated with you in letting you view the vehicles and do whatever imaging you needed to do and whatever measurements and everything you needed to do.
That's correct, but they didn't want me to alter the conditions of the vehicles because it was evidence.
And you had come here early, like in July, I believe you said?
July of 2023.
All right, so based on all we know, I'm not 100% certain that it's going to boil down strictly to battle of the experts, but it's certainly a good idea by the defense to bring someone in who will say and interpret the events differently than the state's experts.
Yes, but it's tedious. All these little details about what he had to do, if not careful, could kind of lose the interest of the jury.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll have more on the other side of the break, so keep it here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. Michael Ayala here with Judge Ashley Wilcott, and we are bringing you the state of South Carolina versus William Bud Ackerman this afternoon.
Prosecutors say that Ackerman drove his pickup truck into his wife's new boyfriend, killing him in May of last year. The defense claims, though, that it was an accident fueled by the victim's desire to fight the defendant.
All right, let's get you back into court now, where jurors are hearing the defense team's first witness. They called an accident reconstructionist. His name is David Torres.
Go ahead and know or get information about the different vehicles, some of the criteria that these vehicles may be unique with, correct?
The makes and models of the vehicles, the design features, the equipment that the vehicles have, they're all sort of unique. So we always do adequate research and understand what the vehicles are capable of achieving or not, or how they perform.
Okay. And that's essential to your work, to know how they perform.
It's absolutely essential.
Did you review pedestrian technical literature that's available to people in your field?
I always refer to published materials that are used in the industry. It's an absolute must for people that are involved in this kind of work. Empirical studies are often used to support some of the opinions that we make and share with people that want to understand how crashes occur.
I may have asked you this, I apologize if I did, but do you know about how many cases you've been involved with in reconstructing?
Yes, I think I mentioned it.
I think you did. I'm sorry. I apologize.
2,000
Yeah.
conventional vehicles, 500 commercial motor vehicle
Correct.
crashes.
You did. I apologize. You did. Okay. And did you conduct an analysis and calculation of final rest position of the vehicles and the pedestrian in this case?
That was part of the assignment that was delegated to me as an accident reconstruction counsel. As a matter of fact, that's where we start. We start at the approximate final rest of vehicles, and in this case, the pedestrian, and we work methodically backwards to analyze, evaluate, and interpret physical evidence that will help us understand from final rest all the way back to the approximate area of impact and also pre-impact paths of travel.
Both of those positions are important in calculations.
Yes, in every case that we work.
And we talk about methodology. What is the methodology you use to go ahead and do the reconstruction?
Well, first of all, the discovery materials and the identification of physical evidence. I work with physical evidence more than anything else. That's so important in the field of traffic accident reconstruction. So you have to know what the first responders have identified as being important.
And this is, let me just interrupt. This is information that was furnished to you by or through me to, from the state. Is that correct?
From
when
the
you talk
state
about discovery.
to the defense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
And being familiar with what first responders considered important, we then use the physical evidence, interpret it, and try to make determinations that help us form opinions that make sense and fit the physical evidence.
You come up with mathematical answers when you do this?
That's the ultimate goal, is to provide mathematical answers with regards to the speeds of the vehicles, where they came to rest, and where they interacted with each other, which is often referred to as the approximate area of impact.
So it's not just subjective work, there actually is objective work to corroborate these things?
Yes, checks and balances for sure.
And are you trying to determine an accurate representation of the collision site by using these forensic means?
Yes, I am.
And do the mathematical answers explain the vehicle dynamics and the pedestrian dynamics?
In this case, we try to do the best we can with, of course, the physical evidence, but we also use some of the published literature, empirical studies to provide some of the mathematical answers that are shared with the appropriate parties.
Did you come to any conclusions about the vehicle final rest position using the range of information available about deceleration rates and CDR download of the BMW? And did you, as a result of that, did you determine the pre-impact speed of the Ford?
I did not determine the pre-impact speed of the Ford, but I did start with the Ford truck and its final rest position, and many of you already know that the vehicle was not on site when the police department did their documentation and evaluated the collision site, but there was physical evidence that was used to identify the approximate final rest position of the Ford truck. There was oil fluid debris on the road, and it was still present actually when I examined the collision site in 2023. I also identified where the pedestrian came to rest through use of photography and drone work that was performed by the first responders. And all that combined with being able to identify where the vehicles came to rest, and then I worked backwards from where the pedestrian reached final rest and also the Ford truck to determine where the approximate area of impact was. And methodically, when we reached the area of where the BMW came to rest, that was a little bit easier to identify because there was still paint marks on the roadway to help us understand the position, the final rest position of the BMW. Some of the physical evidence that was deposited by the BMW was no longer visible, but we were able to reproduce it by use of the work that was done by the first responders. And it turned out to be very crucial evidence, very important evidence to be able to document where the approximate area of impact was. We also used the damage profile, the scaled model, the actual scaled model of the BMW and the Ford truck, and the damage profile of the Ford truck, and the height of the pedestrian, and interpreted some of the physical evidence that first responders photographed and documented so that we could be as exact as possible. They're still approximate. That's how I would describe it, because in the field of accident reconstruction, if you weren't there, you work with ranges and variables. So I did the best I could to identify where I opine or provide an opinion as to how the vehicles interacted with each other, which is the approximate area of impact.
All right, let's bring in our guest, still with us, criminal defense attorney Marie Pineda. Marie, I got to say, even when the state brought in their quote-unquote expert, he was really just a corporal with the South Carolina Highway Patrol, and he didn't really come at it from a real scientific way. He kind of said, well, if it had hit this way, the car wouldn't have ended up over there, it would have ended up over here. This guy seems to be coming at it from a much more scientific way. How do you think it's hitting with this jury?
I think he's a little too detailed and too boring. He's using things like pre-impact speed, you know, PIS. I made that up, Philip Dubé. It's just not catching me. I know he's saying things that are very important, but why didn't you determine the pre-impact speed on a serious note? Because it really has a lot to do with the impact on the body and the damage to the victim's body. I think just from the outset, he's losing me because he's too technical, too slow, and not too interesting. It's storytelling at the end of the day. Regardless of whether or not he's an expert, he needs to captivate the jurors.
Do you think, Marie, is the point of this, and Michael, I can't decide, is the point to really be able to say either he was accelerating or, because he was called by the defense, rather likely to say he was applying the brakes, which would imply he was trying to avoid the victim?
I think his main point is to say that this man did not intentionally run into a person who was still. So he's going to be saying there was a lot of swerving happening. Maybe it was the victim who jumped in the way, and he doesn't have a pre-impact speed, so you don't know how fast he was going. So his argument needs to start with that, and I think he should have determined the pre-impact speed or explain why he was unable to do it.
Yeah.
But without it, I mean, if you think about it, Marie, at the end of the day, what he really wants to do is create reasonable doubt. And what he's doing is, you know, I don't know if it really means that the jury has to decide one way or the other. What he's trying to do is say, look, we don't quite have enough information to know exactly what happened. I'm going to give you my interpretation. There's a different interpretation, but all the evidence really isn't there. And I remember thinking that after the state's expert, like, they know some of the answers and there's some suppositions being made, but they don't have a real scientific approach to this thing.
There isn't. That's why you have to use CSE, common sense evidence. You have to look at the motive. The man was mad. He was angry. And then you can also, you know, flip it on the victim also. This is just legal analysis, not personal opinion. But when you have a drunk victim, shirtless, they need to explain how did his shirt come off, what happened, why did he go over there to confront him. That's where the totality of the circumstances is going to come in. When science can't explain it, common sense evidence kicks in.
And there's a picture of his truck that we know the jury saw when they walked around it with the police and the body cam video. There was not a lot of damage. There was a little in the front, and they go around to the side, Michael, and a little bit there, but not a lot. Not surprising. It's a very big vehicle.
It's a very big vehicle. It's a 7,000-pound murder weapon.
Yeah.
At least that's what the state is claiming. So whether he was out there with his shirt off, whether he was drunk,
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter to me.
He got run over with that
If he got
truck.
run over by that truck, nothing's going to stop that thing.
Yep, that's the state's
But why
position.
was he there in the first place, Messi Meredith?
I don't know, you know, but it's going to be interesting to see how the jury feels about all those things and what they come out with once they deliberate. All right, we are going to take a break. When we come back, of course, we'll get you back inside the courtroom for more of the testimony by the defense's expert.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, new developments in the murder of Anna Walsh. We're taking a closer look at how Trooper Proctor from the Karen Reed case could play a role in the case against Brian Walsh.
Closing Arguments tonight at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV. Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates tonight, 9, 8 Central, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. We're going to turn now to South Carolina again, where the case against Bud Ackerman is winding down.
We're getting close to hearing whether jurors believe he intentionally drove his truck into his estranged wife's new boyfriend, or if they side with the defense, who says that it was just an accident.
We are now in the defense's case. Their first witness is an accident reconstructionist. Let's go back in for more of his direct testimony by the defense.
Collided with the pedestrian as well, and where the pedestrian is positioned when the crash occurs.
These are all the things that you were trying to determine. Is that correct?
That was a specific assignment that counsel wanted. They wanted to know final rest, approximate area of impact, and the speed of the Ford truck, and also the BMW.
Did you have some photographs that you'd like to refer to and explain what those photographs and how they helped you in making the determination that you're ultimately going to testify about?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I think they're marked 1 through 9. And we obviously offer those, Your Honor. They've been marked.
Yeah, no objection from the ones Mr. One showed me.
Start with number 1.
Did you offer?
David, you want to come down here and stand by this mic and explain what that photograph is? And
What exhibits are these? Numbers what now?
1 through 9, Your Honor.
1 through 9.
So just explain to the jury what that signifies.
Okay. This is a forensic scan of the geometry of the roadway, and I would add that there's about 117 million measurement points, longitudinal points, lateral points, elevation values, and the layout of the roadway is to scale. The position of the vehicles, and you really can't see the final rest position of the pedestrian because this is an overview of the visual statement that I produced, but it's a scaled drawing showing the approximate area of final rest for the Ford truck, which is on the westbound lane facing west.
If you need to go down there and point to it, you could do that too. I may have a. No, guys, I may have a.
The top.
Dave, one second.
I'm not tall enough again.
Mr. Swirling's getting a pointer. Hold off just a minute, Mr. Torres. I think Mr. Swirling says he may have a pointer to assist you.
As usual, it's not where it's supposed to be. Go ahead, David, I'm sorry.
Okay. The Ford truck where the arrow is, Jonathan's pointing to it, that's a scaled model of the Ford truck. It's very accurate. It's not an exemplar Ford truck. It was forensically scanned successfully. And I imported it into a scaled model of the roadway. The BMW is located on the bottom portion of the visual statement, and you will also see documentation measurements that I prepared to illustrate the final rest position of the BMW and some of the physical evidence that I saw. So, like I testified earlier, that's where I started. Final rest position of these two vehicles, and then the final rest position of the pedestrian, which is on the upper right hand, close to the upper right side of the right front tire of the Ford truck.
Oh, this particular road, is that a divided road? Is there any markings dividing that road?
Well,
do you
when
recall?
You look real close to the roadway, it has a crack in the center. But if you get real close, there's actually faded yellow paint inside the crack. So I used that as the center of the roadway. So these lanes measured about 9 feet 9 inches in width. So a little bit more narrow than a typical roadway. You know, a typical roadway is usually about 12 feet either direction. But the painted markings that you see on the illustration are more vivid than life itself because it was just a crack. But I wanted to be able to demonstrate to people that saw the visual statement that this is the westbound lane and this is the eastbound lane.
All right, and the area on that picture, where's the gate going into that other property?
The gate is just west. It's not real visible simply because of the texture of the gate and all, but it was documented where and was visible. You know, it's about 73 feet from the area of impact that I identified and reported to council.